Let me welcome all of you to Chat with Matt. Our guest speaker today is Craig Siegel. Craig was introduced to us by way of Harrius Math, who is a member of longstanding of the networking group. And for those of you who I hope everybody's read Craig's bio. He's published a book, The Reinvention Formula, How to Unlock a Bulletproof Mindset to Upgrade Your Life. And he's also founder of Cultivate, Symphony. Over the years, I've been introduced by many people. They always do a terrible job. So the lesson I've taken from that is I let my speakers introduce themselves. And Craig, if you take it away and tell us about your background. Everybody's always interested in your 90-second announcement. That's one of the things we do. So start at the very beginning. I understand you went to college in Connecticut.
That's right. Yeah, first of all, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me. We're going to have a lot of fun today.
We are.
Yeah, this is going to be more of an experience. So we like to interact and be engaging. So let's have some fun.
For sure.
I'm a best-selling author of the brand of the Reinvention Formula, speaker, podcast host, entrepreneur, coach. And this all happened in the last 3 years. Prior to that, I had spent 13 years on Wall Street. And even before that, I was the type of kid that was growing up. I never really knew what I wanted to do with my life. It wasn't exactly like my parents said, oh, you can be anything that you want. They're the best. But I just didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I went to college. I came out and I stumbled upon Wall Street and I was very ambitious. And I spent 13 years there. And Wall Street was a lot of fun until it wasn't. I was doing the stock thing for a while in regards to like retail stocks and just started to become very stressful and obviously the unpredictability. And essentially I was a gladiator in the wrong arena. I left that industry and I started my own business also in finance, but a little bit different. Basically, we provided working capital to businesses all across the country, a little bit higher interest debt and so forth. And so although that one was less stressful and lucrative, wasn't exactly putting a dent in the universe by any means. And I found myself in a pretty dark place a few years back. About 4 years ago, I had just got out of a toxic relationship, which is never fun. My best friend, my dad, had just gotten diagnosed with cancer. He's still battling. And even though I had my own business, like I said, it wasn't exactly soul fulfilling and so forth. And so I just found myself in a dark place, but I didn't stay there long. All of a sudden, about 4 years ago, I started running marathons, to be more specifically. And the reason why this was so pivotal is because a few years back, you couldn't pay me to run. Now I'm literally paying to run marathons. In fact, we have the New York City Marathon in about 2.5 weeks. And so this was so pivotal because it showed me that I could do some hard things. It also gave me purpose at a time when I desperately needed it. But maybe most importantly, it showcased that I could be successful at something that I didn't necessarily have experience in. And then fast forward the pandemic. I mean, talk about a global awakening. For me personally, I looked at this as an historic opportunity to reassess. If not now, then when? And I shut down my office for what I thought would be 2 weeks at the time. And I just got quiet, blocked out the noise and the interference. And I really just connected. And I started getting some spiritual downloads. And it was like, of course, I realized I had a choice. We all have a choice. And I had been obsessed with personal development for years, 15 years to be exact, documenting it, studying it, journaling, learning all of it. I just didn't think I was worthy of turning that into a career till I realized personal development is more than just a passion. This is my assignment. Literally the next day on a run, it came to me. I started my CLS brand, Cultivate Lasting Symphony. Why the word symphony? I'm a very strange cat. I always like that word. It's also a play on my initials, Craig Siegel. And then I came home and I put together a vision. I think there's a big difference between a dream and a vision. Everybody's got dreams, but sadly, a lot of people don't go after them. My vision was very intentional. So I put together like a 10-lane highway with each lane representing a different way to make an impact and also generate business. So for example, speaking, coaching, book deal, podcasts, communities, TED Talk, and so forth. And then I reverse engineered it. And I said, well, what's step one? Build a personal brand. And then I had that one moment of it. People call it imposter syndrome. I don't like to use the word syndrome because I don't want to give it power, but the limiting beliefs. Can I really do this? I had no connections at the time, no following, no celebrity friends. And then I considered the cost of inaction. I like to call it the COI. And for me, I made it so real for myself that I would actually rather died than chosen to go back and be miserable. And so My fear of stepping into the unknown transformed into enthusiasm, and I leaned in. And for the first time in my life, I was in alignment. And over the last 3 years, I say very humbly, the brand's exploded. We have one of the top podcasts on the planet, sponsored by Shark Tank's Mark Cuban. Just hit #4 on the Wall Street Journal bestseller with our first book, speaking all over the world. It wasn't really a career reinvention, just got engaged. A brand new puppy who I'm hoping you won't hear during this interview, sold the business on Wall Street. This is it for me in some capacity for the rest of my life. And we're just getting warmed up. I know that was a long-winded answer.
No, I like long-winded answers.
Yeah, I wanted to give everybody some
So
context.
I just want to make one technology announcement. Earlier today, I had Zoom turned on and it shut off at 40 minutes. So if for some reason the gods are against me and it shuts off, just sign right back in and I'll be back in. Okay. Sorry for interrupting.
No, that's okay.
But I didn't want people to think it was them if something went off.
It's all going to work
And
out.
just sign right back in and we'll be back with you.
Yeah.
So you're cultivating lasting symphony. Maybe you could explain a little bit more about what's involved with that.
So it's a movement. One of the big emphases that I had when I started this was I pictured like, what is CLS going to look like in a few years out? And if you're going to think in life, you might as well think big. And for some reason, I just had this idea that it would be like the Apple of personal development. Why Apple? Because when I think of Apple, it doesn't mean I'm right or anyone's wrong. I think of like a market leader in technology. Sorry for my Android fans. And so I just wanted to create a community of like-minded individuals that were growth-oriented, liked entrepreneurship, really like to work on their mindset, improve, reinvent themselves, grow, self-help, all that stuff. And so that's what CLS is. We have a huge community, obviously the audience and so forth. And I think it's important that everybody understands this is the season of collaboration, not compete. There's more than enough for everybody to win. And I want to help everybody go how I was, because I have contrast from really unfulfilled and miserable and to understanding that it's never too late and you're never too old to get into alignment, create the best life you ever had.
Yeah, I would share with you that our networking group was built on the idea that everybody shared job leads. And 25 years ago, this was not something that people felt comfortable doing. They were always afraid that if they shared a job lead, the other person might get the job. But the reality is the more job leads are almost totally and completely worthless. And if you share your job leads, you hear about more of them.
That's right. 100%. And it's an abundant mindset as opposed to scarcity. Yeah.
Yeah. The more you share, the more you get.
That's right.
And I think I mentioned to you earlier that one of my sayings is the more you help other people, the more you help yourself.
I agree. It's
very easy to talk about that. So you're basically a motivational speaker. That's not an easy career.
You know what? I used to hear this expression when I was growing up, and that was this: if you find what you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Sure.
And I never used to buy into it. Now I understand, but I wanna add a caveat.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that, it's more like this. When you find what you love, it'll never feel like you're working a day in your life, because make no mistake about it, I'm working a lot. It just doesn't feel like work because I absolutely love it. Like I'm actually doing something that I would do for free, and I'm getting paid a lot of money to do it. And that's what I want to encourage everybody to pursue is, look, we're going to spend about a third of our life in our career, another third probably sleeping. So you want to love what you do. And I speak from contrast because I spent a very long time not loving what I do. And I just want to be clear. I was making money on Wall Street, and at that season of life, I determined that to be success. And I just want to be responsible for everybody on the call. Making money is absolutely a part of success, but not the whole thing, right? And so it's so important to strive to be successful in all the areas: your career, your relationships, your fitness, your spirituality, your faith, whatever is good for you, but in all areas. And hopefully I'm showcasing what's possible once you lean in and remove the limiting beliefs.
Yeah, well, that's a good place to pick up. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this whole idea of limiting beliefs?
Yeah. And also, does this chat work? Can people write in the chat?
Yes, people can write in the chat.
I would like to know real quick how you guys are feeling right now from 1 to 10, with 10 being the most on fire and 1 being not so much. And the only reason why I want to do this is because I take full responsibility to have all of you at a 10 by the time this call ends. So let's engage. Let's have some fun. 7s, 8s. Okay, I like the challenge. Love
Okay.
it. Keep it coming, guys. Let's have some fun. Let's get engaged.
5s and 6, 4,
Yes, I got a lot of work to do today.
8, a lot of 5s, and some 4s,
I love it.
a
Okay.
lot of 5s and 6s, but I would say a larger number of 4s and 5s.
That's okay.
There's very
Challenge
few
accepted.
8s.
Challenge accepted. So in regards to your question,
It's a tough group, Craig.
that's okay. That's okay. So you asked me about limiting beliefs. Here's the thing. Most of us cultivate limiting beliefs and scarcity mindset over the course of our lifetime. But here's the great news. If we can just exercise some awareness, we can all agree that we were not born with these limiting beliefs. Somewhere over time, we've adapted that, maybe from our parents, society, the news, economy, social media, whatever the case may be. And we started to give energy and life to those limiting beliefs. Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
When I was on Wall Street and I was really like in a dark place and I was stressed out, I gave so much life and energy to this story, this narrative, if you will, that this was it for me. I'm a Wall Street guy. I'd always be stressed out and never find true love and make a certain amount of money. And that was it. When I got quiet in the pandemic, more specifically the lockdown, and I really connected, it occurred to me that I have a choice and I can easily choose a different narrative, a different story. I can start to identify what some of my passions are. What do I like to do? Personal development was at the top of the list for me. I can make a second list. What are some of my skill sets? Everybody's got some, everybody's good at something, and humbly, I could communicate pretty effectively. So when I married those two of personal development and communicating, and I kind of figured out CLS and so forth, I started giving energy and life into the narrative of, whoa, this actually feels really good to me. Instead of thinking about what can go wrong, I started thinking about, well, what can go right? What if I fly? What if it works out? What if I can impact millions of people? What kind of ripple effect could that have? And so the limiting beliefs aren't real, but it's not enough to just remove them. We have to replace them with something more empowering and choose a different story. And the good news is if you're going about your day, like for anyone that wrote a 4 or 5 in the chat today, maybe just having a decent day so far, that's actually feedback from the universe.
I'm sorry, it's what?
Feedback.
Okay.
So the feedback that you're getting from the universe is that you're in a little bit of a lowered state or a lowered frequency. Why? Is it possible that maybe because you have negative beliefs or you have limiting beliefs or you're not super optimistic? Most likely. But then you can do something about it and we can transform from reactive to proactive. See, here's the thing. Backed by science, I didn't make this up. Most of our thoughts over the course of the day are in fact negative. And so thoughts are random, but thinking is not. Let me explain. So if you're getting negative thoughts over the course of the day, which we all do, myself included, you just have to have a system in place to get over that. So for example, anytime you're at a 4 or 5, just say to yourself, why are my thoughts, what are they right now? Are they a little bit negative? Are they disempowering? Are they pessimistic? And if they are, just replace them with more empowering ones. I am worthy. I am enough. I am loved. I am grateful for this. I am excited about that. And then all of a sudden, you start giving energy to the new positive thoughts, which create more elevating and enriching beliefs, and then ultimately more enriching behaviors and actions and results in your life. So it just takes awareness to realize that the beliefs that you have, you were not born with, and you can choose different ones.
Yeah. No, it's kind of like it's a Tinkerbell syndrome, right?
That's right.
You can't fly unless you think happy thoughts.
That's right. That's right. You nailed it.
Great. So all of you don't know this, but I went out to Craig's website and listened to his interviewing lots of other people. And one of his favorite questions is asking people what their superpower is.
Yep. Yeah, so you're
That's
asking
for
me?
you, Craig.
Okay. So it's funny because I think I have a bunch. I think we all do, actually. We all have a bunch of superpowers.
Yes, right.
But if you ask me right now on the spot, I think it's probably self-belief and focus. And what I mean by that is I'm really focused on what we're doing now with building CLS and so forth. And, a lot of people come to me and they say, Craig, how did you explode your personal brand in like an overnight success in 3 years' time from starting from nothing? And one of the things that I am, and this is a superpower too, and it's available to everybody, is I'm super consistent. I'm not better or like I run marathons. I'm 5'7.5". I'm kind of stocky. I'm not built like a runner, but I'll show up and I'm consistent every single day. And I think that goes a long way. And then in regards to self-belief, when I started CLS and I had those limiting beliefs, it occurred to me, this is good for everybody on the call. If you can identify where you might have been successful in something else in your life, and we all have it, something, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't the thing that made you successful. So for example, it wasn't Wall Street or running marathons. The thing that makes us successful is in fact us. And those same characteristics in that specific endeavor are most likely transferable. Maybe it's gritty or resilient or outgoing or persistent, whatever the case may be. And that you can take those with you to do anything. And if you invest in yourself and you do the personal development and you remove the negative thoughts, self-belief or an unwavering reassurance and confidence, I think is actually more valuable than certifications or degrees and so forth. It's just that knowing that you may not have all the answers, but you're willing to bet on yourself and you're resourceful and determined enough to figure things out. And the good news is that's actually available to everybody.
Yeah. No, it's very important that dogged persistence wins out generally.
That's it. That's right.
And who was it that said 80% of life is just showing up? Maybe it's 90%.
I don't know, but that's a good one. I actually agree.
I don't know. Maybe somebody knows who said that. I thought it was Willie Nelson, but I think maybe it was. No, never
Woody
mind.
Allen.
We'll move on. Pardon me?
Woody Allen, probably.
Woody Allen, right? Okay,
Another good one.
another good one. 90% of life is just showing up. You got to show up, right?
Some
you
people,
you have to work at, if you work at things that you enjoy doing. One of the topics that we've been that has been very popular in our group is starting your own consulting practice. I mentioned to you that our objective for our networking group is helping people work as long as they want to work. The classic thing is people become, quote, old, unquote, and they can't find work anymore. And in today's world, at least the private equity groups, they're hiring old people because they're the only people who know how to do anything. No, really.
no,
I've actually sent people in for interviews who are in their 70s, and they will talk to them. As long as you can fog a mirror, they're good.
but
Got to be able to fog a mirror, though.
There's something to what you just said, and it's like I've seen people that are super successful and then they retire.
Yeah.
And they get old very fast.
Yes,
or
very
they
fast.
get very bored. But then there's people that are a little bit older that they stay excited about something. They're working or they're passionate about something and they're working towards that. And it gives them purpose in life. And that's why, like, even my dad's no spring chicken. He's 88 years young. He was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer 5 years ago. And I'll never forget, like, the doctor, he did not have great bedside manner. Like, he was very pessimistic. And I just remember saying to my dad, like, Dad, we can agree with the diagnosis, but that doesn't mean we have to agree with the prognosis. And I was like, they can't measure heart. And my dad has so much to live for. He's so excited about what we're doing now. I'm interviewing like all his favorite athletes and stuff. And he loves my fiance, my brother, my best friend. I only have one sibling. He has a kid.
Okay.
Just had a second one. So he has grandchildren. He has purpose in life. He has desire. He wants to wake up every day. He's enthusiastic. And I believe that goes a long way. And if you're working towards something in life, it's good for you. And I believe it actually extends your life.
Yeah, it does. We have, Peggy and I have friends who I have a sailboat. So these friends they're the kids on the dock. They're in their mid-60s, and he's a salesman. He sells software, and he and I were chatting about this very issue of people who retire. And what he said was they lose their edge. very quickly.
Right. You nailed it.
My two co-chairs, as I mentioned to you earlier, are my age. They're in their 70s, and we're all working and having a great time.
Yeah.
My little joke is I only work from 9 to 9:30 every day, but sadly it's not a half an hour.
Wow. 12 and a half hour days.
Yeah, well, I'm doing something I really enjoy, and all of our members almost every day somebody sends me a love note, so you can't beat it.
And to be honest with you, if I'd just like to take a second to acknowledge you, because I know you don't have to be doing this, but you show up and you bring great people together, and
Yes.
you have me on tonight, and hopefully one thing that you and I say inspires someone to do something, and that's a beautiful thing. And I acknowledge you for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So what is there something people don't know about you? My life's an open book. So everything I write every day about my own personal experiences. So everyone knows everything about me.
It's so funny because I'm really introverted, which might surprise you guys. And
Oh, really? Wow.
yeah, and I was very private up until I became a public figure. But
Uh-huh.
when I set out my vision to create CLS and that 10-lane highway that I spoke about, it occurred to me that social media is a great opportunity and tool to put yourself out there and reach more people, because it doesn't matter how good I might be able to get. If there's nobody there to consume it, I got nothing. And so I started getting comfortable being uncomfortable and showing up every single day on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's so much out there. It was something that I had to lean into. Is there something that nobody knows about me?
I'm surprised you don't have an answer, Craig, because this is what you ask everybody.
I know, but it's funny because I don't love to dance. And we're planning a wedding right now. And my fiance says, you better get your butt in the dance floor. So we'll have to do that. But I think I might take a lesson so I'm prepared, because I'm a big believer in that preparation breeds confidence.
Yes.
And maybe I'll surprise her and everybody at the wedding. I'll come in with all these unbelievable dance moves. So maybe I'll do that. That's something that nobody knows, because I just came up with it on the spot.
That's excellent. As they say, the harder I work, the luckier I get.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
I know one of your big things is continuous self-improvement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look, everybody knows about becoming physically fit, right? Like if you want to run marathons or do yoga or lift weights or look good, you have to lift weights or exercise or eat well. That's pretty obvious. But what about staying mentally fit? I think that's even more important. And so for me, for 15 years, I was doing the personal development. I have journals all over my dining room table. I didn't know it would eventually lead to my career and my calling. But every day I would work on myself. And now, as it's my career, it's just a non-negotiable for me. And I encourage everybody to consider this. Every single day when I wake up, when I'm going through my morning routine, for at least a half hour, I'm consuming some sort of inspiration or personal development, whether it's a book or a podcast or something on YouTube or one of Matt's interviews, whatever the case may be, just something to elevate me. And I can't stress it enough, because when you do that, you set the tone for the day that it's going to be positive and optimistic. And that doesn't mean that there won't be obstacles or unpredictable challenges and stuff like that.
Yeah.
At least you're feeding yourself with the tools and the inspiration to play offense and get ahead of it. So I think it should be a non-negotiable for everybody. In fact, I would love to see school systems make it part of the curriculum to teach personal development. I know personally, if that was in there when I was coming up, I probably would have been more engaged in my studies.
Yeah, no, it's true. You have to always be working on something. I like to solve problems. I'm a recovering chief financial officer. In the 1980s, I was chief financial officer of an advertising agency. So my superpower is I learned to work with diverse personalities, most of whom were under psychiatric care for good and valid reasons. It was a crazy business. If you watch Mad Men, it was a lot worse.
Yeah.
So you have to be you have to know that everybody brings value, and your goal is to find it.
Right.
And I like your approach that people need to keep developing themselves. Do you have a definition of success? Do you know where you're taking this?
It's funny you asked. I think really big. We just kind of finished the first 3-year story arc of CLS, and
Oh, okay.
we just launched our book with the Wall Street Journal bestseller. I just did a TED talk, and people keep asking me, "What's next? What's next?" And it's like, for the first time since I started this, I'm actually taking a second to reassess, to really figure out what is that next level of expansion. The podcast is huge and stuff like that, and I really want to get clarity on that. But in regards to the word success, I know now from personal experience, success is never the end destination, right?
Yeah.
It's not crossing the finish line of the marathon or the big 7-figure business deal. It's the process, it's the journey, it's who you become on the way. And
Yeah.
as long as you're striving to get better and improve in all the areas, like I said, relationships, career, fitness, faith, all that stuff, I think you're successful. A word that comes to mind, and I know I'm not super old just yet, but based upon my life and some of the setbacks and challenges that I've went through, a word that comes to mind for success is peace. Like, I sleep great at night. I go to bed next to a fiance who I'm absolutely in love with. I wake up and I get to do this work and I love it and I get paid to do it. And I have my beautiful, handsome puppy who's a little bit crazy. And I'm at peace. I'm not very stressed out. Whereas a few years back, I was always anxious. I was a little depressed. I was very stressed out. And
I
so
think that you were doing sales on Wall Street.
yeah, I did some sales. You just want to get to a place in life where you love what you do and you love your relationships and who you're around and you feel at peace. I think that's a good place to strive for.
Yeah. I think one of the things I learned in my years in the advertising business is that you never want to work for people you dislike. We had clients of our agency who before we took them, we knew they were bad people. And we took them anyway because we needed the money. It never pays. When I coach people starting their own businesses, that's what I tell them. You meet somebody, you don't like them, or you don't like the way they do business, don't do business with them because they will grind you down. And that's something you can't afford.
Yeah, that's true. This just came to me straight off the cuff, if you don't mind. I really love being here and I love the interview, and I wanted to do a giveaway.
Okay.
At the end of this conversation, whoever drops in the chat their favorite nugget or their favorite takeaway from the conversation, I'm going to go ahead and send a signed copy of our new book, The Reinvention Formula. Just the winner, the best takeaway from the conversation. Let's have some fun.
Okay. We'll have to try to get the chat box copied for you.
Well,
We'll see.
all we have to do, Matt, is
All right. If you know how to do it, you're a co-host. You can take care of it. My wife is on the call with me. She's my number one helper. So.
Peggy will pick the best takeaway before the call hangs up, and we'll get that person's address and we'll send them a book.
Terrific. That's very nice. It's a very nice offer.
I want to start seeing some
selling.
things come in.
Okay, so I think the next topic is that you've mentioned in your interviewing is authenticity, and that's a big topic today.
Yeah,
there's so many people who are just totally unauthentic in today's world.
That's right. Yeah, and I know that firsthand because I spent about 35 years being inauthentic. I'm a recovering people pleaser, and I was following in the footsteps of other people's expectations, but I don't even know whose expectations they were. Like I thought I was supposed to be this person on Wall Street, make money, pretty girlfriend, nice watch, but my soul was dying and I was inauthentic. And I didn't like confrontation. I was afraid to be myself. And it's very interesting because when I leaned into what I'm doing now, which is totally something different, I made one guarantee and one promise to myself because there was no guarantee that this was going to work. I had no connections, no following, nothing. I said, for the first time in my life, I'm going to show up to the world as the real, raw, strange, authentic Craig that I am. And it's not going to be for everybody, and that's okay. But at least if I fail, God forbid, I didn't think I would, but if I failed being myself. And ironically, when I started showing up authentically and being me and being weird, that's when the world began to see me. Because all the world really wants is for us to be ourselves. Yet somehow we're the last ones to follow through with that promise.
Yeah.
think authenticity is absolutely huge.
One of my favorite guest speakers, the woman by the name of Debbie Fay, and she said, "Be yourself. Everyone else is taken.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm
You can't
loving
be someone else."
in here.
But definitely, authenticity, I think, is a big thing for people.
Yeah.
You have to be yourself. You can't be what other people want you to be.
That's right.
So one of the things you brought up in the interview I watched was being what's your definition of the difference between being successful and being truly limitless?
Being successful and being limitless.
Yes. How do you make yourself limitless, I guess?
Interesting.
I think
Limitless. When I think of the word limitless, I think about how people should look at the world and what's possible for them individually, right? Because basically, if you see limitless potential for yourself,
yeah.
giving yourself permission to succeed and to accomplish anything that you desire with no restrictions. And I think that a lot of people want to do stuff like we're doing and set out and build a life by design and do something that you love and make a lot of money and all that stuff, but they don't really think it's possible for them. They don't think they're worthy or it's in the cards because they have limits.
Mhm.
And so I would encourage everybody to break it down and get ahead of it and list out the things that you want to do and think really big. And then create a second column of the potential objectives and obstacles that you might face. And then finally, a third column on how you can actually solve those problems so you can be limitless. And look, you will get out of life what you believe you're worth. And I know that might trigger some people, but I think it's good. And here's why. Because if you're not where you want to be in your life right now, first of all, it's never too late. You're never too old. But second of all, it's because subconsciously you think that's what you're worth. And I know this because for so long, like a couple of years back, I thought that was it for me. When I considered that I could buy into something else, like we spoke about earlier, then all of a sudden I started to raise my identity and my self-worth and what was possible. And I started to remove the limits and think more limitless. And people always ask me, like, how have you had on some of these celebrities on your podcast that people that don't even do interviews and stuff like that, these athletes and actors and entrepreneurs? And I'm saying, because why not? Why not me? Right. And I'm persistent and I reach out and I have something to offer them. We have a community and I'm willing to be bold and go for it. And so I just don't think that there's any benefits on creating a limit on what we can all accomplish in this world.
No, I think you're right. Our family motto is you can do anything to which you set your mind.
That's right. Yeah.
And I've done it many times. Sometimes I've even amazed myself.
Yeah, I love it. And also I want to just acknowledge the audience tonight. I mean, look at this engagement. This is great. They're participating.
Yes, they're actually listening. That's good.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. No, what happens with people is when they get middle-aged, the world has not totally caught up with the idea that there's value in older people. You know, we have such a youth-oriented culture that you're over the hill, or you're this, that, or the other thing. You just completed the first chapter of your life. There's chapter 2.
I mean,
and it can be better.
I agree, and it's a mindset, right? Like in essence, you're just getting warmed up, right?
I am.
I believe that because you believe that, and why not you? And look at all the great stuff that you're up to, and like somebody can kind of like be old at 25 if they have no purpose and they're going down a bad path, and someone could be so young and full of life at 78 because they're excited and enthusiastic. So I think it's all a mindset.
It definitely is. In 1996, when I took over this group, I had friends and relatives who laughed at me. Why are you spending so much time on this? You're not getting paid. Well, they're not laughing anymore.
That's right.
Our networking group, as my co-chair Bruce Lynn would say, it's an overnight success, 25 years in the making.
I love that.
We are at a place now where we are the last remaining real networking group. There was a group for marketing folks. There was a group for technology folks. They're both gone. we've created a cult in the very positive sense of people helping each other.
That's
And
right.
it really works.
Isn't that what it's all about?
Very much symmetry to what you're talking about.
Everybody elevating each other to win.
Yes.
100%. And we need more people to think like that.
Yeah. As I said, when you help other people, you help yourself. And a lot of people don't know that. There was a time when I thought, if somebody helped me, I'd owe them a day of work, whatever it might be, right? But it's not true. We're running a free market in favors in our networking group. You help somebody, and they help somebody else, because paying back favors is very hard to the person that granted you the favor. Very hard. So we run a free market. You just help everybody who comes along, and sooner or later somebody does you a favor and you don't even know where it came from.
It's so funny because we just did a big TED talk. It's going to get uploaded to YouTube probably in a month to 40 million people. And one
good. I looked for it today because I knew you did a TED talk.
It's not out yet. We just did it maybe like a week ago. One of the lines in the TED talk, and nobody knows this, but I'm going to say it to you and you guys, because you keep referencing something very similar. And I say this: the only way to keep what you have is to know the power of giving it away. And you keep touching on that about helping others is a way to help yourself. And I just thought that was so beautiful and in alignment.
Thank you. No, I knew we'd get along great. Because we're all working on the same problem. We're trying to help people be successful. Once you decide you can't work anymore, you're never going to find a good job, or this, that, or the other thing, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I often say to people, just a few weeks ago, you were working and they were paying you in US dollars, right? Well, nothing changed except the company disappeared. Nothing happened with you. It was just the company. Companies come and go. Look at BlackBerry. Poof. Kodak, 150 years. Poof. It happens to companies. It doesn't happen to you because you have skills. And as I tell people today, there's hardly anybody who knows how to do anything today. So you're one of the exceptions, Craig. You're one of the young people who actually knows how to do things.
Thank you. Well, it took me a little while, but better late than never.
Right. And you're just at the beginning of doing things, and it's great stuff.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see. What else did we want to talk about here? We're open to questions. We're getting into the last 20 minutes, so we're open to questions.
We can absolutely open it up.
Why don't we talk about, while everybody's getting their questions
I
ready.
just want to say that I can't choose because so many people have put the same thing. So if I choose A, 5 other people might have said something similar. So I don't know how you want to do it, but I mean, I can save it and you can look at it later.
Right before we hop off, I'll choose one.
Okay, fine. Because I don't want to, I don't know the people, but there's just many people have said the same thing.
But Peggy, this is a good problem to have.
Why don't we talk about
it is a good problem to have. I love it.
Great. Why don't we talk about setbacks and challenges?
Yep.
What advice would you give to someone going through a tough time?
There's a chapter in the book, and it's called Disappointment and Heartbreak. And look, there's a chapter in the book called Disappointment and Heartbreak. And I think it's important to let everybody know that that's a part of life. Give yourself a little grace, especially for anybody that wants to play big and like take shots. If you're going to be willing to take some big shots in life, you have to be willing to take some misses too. And setbacks and adversity, it happens to all of us. Nobody's exempt from that. However, if you can maintain the mindset that life happens for you and not to you, it makes it a lot easier to get through it when you're going through it. And then typically you'll look back. Steve Jobs once said, you can't connect the dots looking forward, only backward. You'll look back and realize that happened. And had it not happened, then you wouldn't be over here. You wouldn't have been doing this or whatever the case may be. So I'll give you guys an example. 2 years ago, I was training for a Chicago marathon and I was at a big speaking engagement. And we were playing football on the beach, a bunch of the co-workers, never a good idea. And I got injured. And I came home and basically my foot was misdiagnosed as a sprained ligament. And they put me in this walking boot. And after a couple of weeks, it wasn't getting any better. And I just had this intuition that maybe something wasn't right and I should facilitate an MRI. And so I did, even though the doctor said it wasn't necessary. Doctor calls me back about a week later and he said, Craig, and we need you to come in. And I'm like, I'm very busy right now. Can you just tell me what it is? Is it torn? And they're like, please come in. I'm like, I really don't have the time right now. Just hit me with it. And the doctor goes, okay, it's not torn. The ligament actually looks great. But we did find a very rare tumor on the bottom of your foot.
Oh,
That caught me off guard. I did not see that coming. Talk about setback, right?
for
And
sure.
I remember, and he said, you have to get it taken out or it could spread. It's very rare. So I hung up the phone and I allowed myself about, I would say, a 2-hour pity party, feeling bad for myself. Why me? And then I said, all right, after that 2 hours is up, I'm going to research the best doctors that I can find in Manhattan, start making some appointments, seeing what the deal is and what needs to be done, what course of action. And so because I had that mindset at the time, and the old Craig wasn't like this, then I would have had much longer of a pity party. But now I do the self-improvement work every day and I work on myself. And so I don't know why this is happening right now, but I'm looking forward to finding out. Make a long story short, I got surgery. I got the tumor taken out. It came back benign, thank God. And somehow, without any physical training, I was still able to run the New York City Marathon a month later with a hole in my foot and raise money for American Cancer Society and inspire my dad.
Oh, good for
But
you.
it was at this time when, right after the surgery, I couldn't really be active, the stitches and so forth. And so I really started diving into this spiritual work and like quantum energy and vibrational stuff. And I'd always been skeptical because I was always a mindset guy through and through. If I can't see it, if it's beyond my senses, I don't buy in. And because I wasn't running and stuff like that, I had a little bit extra time. I remember I read this book called The Secret. It's all about the law of attraction and stuff like that. And I just started to buy in and understand that we are a soul and a spirit having a human experience, and we are limitless. And this 5'7.5" handsome vessel is just that. It's just a vessel. Obviously, Matt is more handsome than mine, but it's just like an astronaut suit. Inside is a soul that's limitless. And I really started to buy into this stuff, and I started being able to manifest things and collapse time. And then the tumor came out and all that stuff. And I know now, looking back, had I not had that extra downtime, I would have never read that book, The Secret, at a time when I could really use it and really start to understand energy and manifesting and stuff like that. So even though that was very tough at the time, I just maintained the mindset. Even though I don't know why now, I know somehow this is propelling and protecting me to something greater. And so for anyone, it doesn't have to be a tumor in your foot or whatever the case would be, whether it's a bankruptcy or a divorce or anything. Just have the mindset that I don't know exactly why, but I know somehow this is happening for me, and I'm going to learn priceless, invaluable lessons from this experience and be better for it. So I think it goes back to mindset.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
books you only have to read the first page. One of them is the Road Less Traveled, and in the first chapter, he starts out, life is difficult. If you accept that, everything makes sense. People don't really believe that. But life is just a continuing series of challenges. And as I've said, I don't know where I got this, but the mark of a man isn't how many times he gets knocked down, it's how many times he gets up. And to your point, with the tumor in your heel, you're going to just falling apart, right? You got this big marathon coming up. The very thought that you wouldn't be able to run again must have been devastating.
Yeah.
Craig, I'd like to add, Matt always calls me Pollyanna. Even though my name is not Polly, it's Peggy, because I too have that mindset. And I have always believed out of every bad situation, something good will come. And if you believe that, and then look for whatever the good is, no matter how bad the situation is, it will help you grow and get beyond that. And that's exactly what you're saying.
I
Right, so
love
we got 15 minutes left. Must have questions.
Peggy. That was a beautiful share. I agree.
We must have questions.
We don't have any questions.
Peggy will.
We have no questions.
No questions.
We have
Greg, you've explained
comments
this so
and the
perfectly.
things that people said, but about all the, what they like about what Craig has shared and how they agree with it. but there aren't any questions. I
I
think
saw-
obviously you've been very
Rob.
clear.
Robert has a question.
So you've interviewed a lot of people. Who was your favorite?
I get to ask that a lot. You know, I'm
Sure.
so passionate about the podcast. So it's like saying, who's your favorite kid?
I knew
love
you were. I watched your pod. I told you I watched 4 of your podcasts, and you were having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So who was the most fun?
I can't, I don't know who was the most fun. I will
Well,
say,
you have a top 5. We can do the first 2.
you know what? I had a really good conversation with the late Suzanne Summers, who just passed away.
Oh,
Sunday.
yeah, I know
Wow,
she just.
yeah.
I saw her name, and I was thinking she just passed away. Wow.
She didn't do many podcasts, so I
Mhm.
was determined to have her on. And I got to tell you, you know, I grew up. I remember the Thigh Master, who doesn't? But I think she was a little before my time with that show Three's Company.
Yeah.
Very popular with my brother and stuff. I remember speaking to her, and I was just so taken aback and blown away at how young of a spirit, and she had such a zest for life. She loved it. She was just getting started. She had battled cancer for a while. I think that's why she ended up passing. Don't quote me on that.
She did. They said
yeah.
that.
Yeah, but she was just unbelievable.
23 years she battled cancer.
She was a warrior and just a great spirit. And I'm so happy that I got to connect with her. And that podcast interview will live forever.
Oh,
Liz
good,
has a good
good.
question too.
Yeah. And another question, Peggy?
Liz has one, yeah.
Really? I only see the comments. I don't see any questions.
So Liz wrote,
Right,
do you
so-
enjoy public speaking? Any thoughts on getting comfortable with public speaking? So it's interesting because I recently found out, Liz, that public speaking is the #1 fear in America. And I guess that probably shouldn't come as a surprise because most people hate it. With me, I would just say this. It didn't come natural to me. It was a skill set that I had to develop.
Mhm.
Make it not about you. Doesn't matter if you're speaking to an audience of 1 or an audience of 70,000, which I spoke in front of in Portugal last year.
Mhm.
It's not about you or how you look or how you sound. That's an ego thing. How can you add value? How can you transfer some positivity and good energy and really make an impact? And when you just focus on the audience and how you can add value, it takes away the pressure and the expectations of you. And then you feel a little bit more comfortable because you realize it doesn't matter what you're doing. It matters is who can you help and add value to. And that's been a big game changer for me. And even like anyone here that might be building a personal brand, I'm not sure if you are, or if you're putting out content on social media, give yourself permission to be less than perfect. And just remember, it's not about you. It's how can you add value and who can you add value to, and make it about that.
I'd
Yeah.
like to ask you, I mean, tell us about, you said you gave a TED Talk. I recently gave a TED Talk. What did you learn from, what was your TED Talk about? And what did you learn from it? I'll have to watch it, but tell me what you learned from it.
Congratulations for you doing one as well. That's awesome.
Thank
My
you.
TED Talk was about reinvention is not what you think, which is kind of like it, you know, the theme of the book, The Reinvention Formula.
Yeah. Right.
Basically, the premise is reinvention is not starting over. It's finishing and executing on what you've been dying to do. I'll say this. I was blown away by my experience. I didn't know so much about TED Talks. It was one of the lanes in the highway, and we kind of got it, and I shifted my focus right from the book launch to this. And I actually Googled the night before the talk, what does TED stand for? I didn't even know.
I read 3 books before I gave my TED Talk.
Peggy, Craig, I have to share with you. Peggy is the master of over preparation.
But it's a good thing.
No, it's a great thing.
Yeah.
I
I
have
was
great
so
respect for what
taken
you
aback
your approach.
by the event coordinators and the staff, and there's just a spirit to the TED Talk. It's like classy. I just loved it. And it's interesting because, you know, I give talks all over the world, but for this one specifically, you have to memorize it to the very word. I have never done that before. Usually when I speak, I have an idea of what I want to say, like an outline, and then I meet the audience where they're at. This one, I had to memorize a 12 to 15-minute speech. And then I took my own advice and I married the process, divorced the outcome, and I would memorize a little bit more each day. And then the next day I'd start from the beginning and work my way there. And then I had about 8 days left, and it was just reps and reps. And to be honest with you, it was probably the best talk I ever gave. And I enjoyed the process so much that from here on out, like I'll be speaking this week in Manhattan and Ad Week, next week in Nashville. I'm going to start being much more deliberate and intentional with my talks. Now, you can't memorize every single one, but more intentional. And I love the whole process. Can't say enough good things about it. How about
Right.
you?
It's a
Well,
discipline.
Yeah, I would say,
The time limit is severe.
yeah, I didn't memorize it as much as by going through it so many times, I felt that it became more authentic, to use your word. Because if you truly memorize it, then you're trying to conjure up those words. If you memorize the concept and the order and what what the message you want to do, I think that you become more authentic. And that's why people buy into what you're saying, because you're real. It's not, here's my talk, but this is who I am, and it's from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah, that's what they say.
I think
Talk actually
something
go
you
from
said earlier I want to pick up on. Oh, never mind. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say the talk when you're preparing, it's
Yeah.
got to go from your brain to your heart. They
Yes,
say.
it does.
No.
You have
If
to
you- If
really,
you practice something too much, it can become inauthentic.
Yes.
if you
It just
memorize
sounds
it,
memorized.
if you memorize it, it'll become inauthentic, because you'll then sound like a robot. If you start to own it and feel it, in, as you said, in your heart, that you
Yes.
really believe in what you're doing. So you, because you don't have any notes, you have no slides, you have nothing. So therefore, you have to own it.
Yes.
It's almost like being an actor and becoming a new person, taking on a role. You have to own that and convince everyone that you are this person, right?
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll have to connect.
Most
We'll
people,
have to connect offline. I don't want to take from your talk. Go.
Yeah. So most people don't start from zero. This whole reinvention thing. I think there's some misunderstandings about it, and I welcome your thoughts. People can't start from zero. You can reinvent yourself, but you do have a toolbox. One of my little jokes. I have a lot of little jokes, but one of my little jokes is that I'm the master of in the box thinking. Most people don't stop to see what's in the box. And there's a lot in the box that isn't being used, that you can use to in quotes reinvent yourself. For
That's right.
example, if you're starting your own consulting practice, you better know how to sell, because you're going to be doing that at least one day a week instead of doing that very enjoyable debit and credit stuff.
That's right.
All right, that's the fun part. The hard work can be personal selling. Fortunately, I come from a whole line of feather merchants, and all we talked about at dinner was selling. So I knew a lot about it, and I worked at 2 organizations that did personal selling. So that piece was part of my toolbox and served my in the box thinking. But you can pick up on that and take it anywhere you want.
Here's
No,
a question that was here. What was one of your big shots, but was a big miss, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah.
That sounds like a better question than mine.
I think I could name a couple,
Okay.
First of all, my previous relationship that didn't work out, it was toxic, and we won't point any fingers. We both just weren't in alignment. And then when I ended that, it was like you start to second guess love and stuff like that. But you take shots, you put yourself out there for relationships. It's not always the best one or the right one, but that's where you learn, and you learn like what you don't like in a partner, what you do want, what is important to you, what maybe isn't. And maybe most probably you learn more about yourself, right? And so even just relationships in general, if they don't work out, wasn't a waste of time, because you learned a lot. Like for me, for example, I learned so much in that relationship that when I got out of that, I knew exactly what I didn't want. And then I became available. And I say that respectfully. And I imagine I wasn't the right fit for my ex. Wish her the best. But then I became available for the right person. And that's literally when I met my fiance. It was my soulmate. And then another one is the first marathon I ran. I wasn't really running ever. I just started running, and I signed up because I think big, 6 months out. It's not a lot of time to prep to run 26.2 miles. And all of a sudden, as we got closer to it, I really wanted to run and break the 4-hour mark, because in the running world for like a civilian, that's a good number, under 4 hours. But I just started running, and I remember crossing the finish line for my first marathon, and I felt like the biggest mix of emotions of both being proud but also disappointment. because I had grown and evolved so much as a human when I started running. This was a few years back, that so did my vision. And so it wasn't just enough to run a marathon. I wanted to run it well and break 4 hours. And so technically I missed that shot, but I learned a lot and I got better. And then of course I broke I broke 4 and then 3:39 and 3:31 and all that stuff. And hopefully we'll do better in New York City too. But you got to be able to, you got to be bold in life, and you have to take risks. In fact, I think the riskiest thing we could do in life is to play it safe.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I like that.
Yeah.
Everything is a decision. People don't know that either. To not decide is a decision,
That's right.
Well, yes, of course.
and oftentimes it's the wrong one. But to recognize a bad situation, people in our group can certainly relate that to their job search and companies where they've worked, taken things on for the wrong reasons. And as I mentioned to you, I write an editorial every night. I have about 750 of them. So I'm going to write a book someday, but I have to have time to do that. I don't know how you found time, but anyway, it's a process of thinking through what you have and where you want to go, and you just have to keep at it. Giving up is really not a good option.
Another question that just came here was, who are your mentors and what is your favorite mentor? Talk a little bit about mentors that you might have.
Yeah. So great question. So the old Craig, the unenlightened one, before I reinvented myself, I used to always have this mindset like, oh, I'll do it myself or I'll figure it out. But when I reinvented myself, I put my ego aside and realized I don't know what I don't know. And the best way to achieve all that you want to achieve in this world is to hop in a time machine. And the best way to hop in a time machine is to surround yourself with mentors and coaches and people that are a little bit further ahead, because then you can gain their insight and their perspective. And so for anyone on the call today, you can have many indirect mentors. Like you might listen to our podcast, a CLS Experience, or there's people that you follow or read their books. They're an indirect mentor to you. You love their work and they inspire you. And then you can actually hire a coach or a mentor, like I do coaching and so forth. And then you can have actual mentors and coaches. And so I'm so into coaching now, and I take such pride in it that I have a business coach. I now have a running coach, and I had a coach for my TED Talk because I didn't know so much about that. And I wanted to do a great job, and I don't have so much time. And so I take pride in having a coach in any area that I want to improve upon. And I encourage everybody to have that same mindset. And if maybe you don't have the means or you can't afford it, then books and YouTube and podcasts are a great source of indirect mentors that you can learn from as well.
And coaching. The great athletes all have coaches.
That's right. That's exactly it.
So, all right, we're at almost at the very end of our hour, and Craig has been very generous with his time. I want to thank you for being on Chat with Matt. Any final thoughts?
From me or Peggy, because she's on fire.
No, you. What final thoughts?
You're our guest.
So this-
I'm not here. They want to hear
For
from
this
you.
organization of boring financial people, what have you got for us? What
Yeah, I just
final
want to,
thoughts?
for anyone that might not be super happy or satisfied with their life right now, it's not the final destination. You can reinvent, you could change gears, you could get into alignment. And if all else fails, look yourself in the mirror and say, why not you? And please understand that playing small is canceled. I think it's our responsibility to find why we're here and find our purpose and make an impact and do great things with it. And for those of you that are like, oh, but I still have to make a living, I'm a big believer, no one is yet to prove me wrong, that if you're very passionate about something and you're willing to put in the work, you can monetize it. So if you're not happy right now, reconsider what would make you happy and try that. And I think you said earlier, Matt, like the only way you lose is if you don't try.
Yeah, no, it's true. I can tell you that we had all of 30 members when I started with this group. And now we have 34,000 nationwide and around the world. On Friday, I'm going to talk to our chapter in New Delhi, India. Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm just a farm boy from Indiana. What do I know? I never thought this would happen.
Yeah.
But
I just want to say, I really love being here. We have an inspirational texting community where we send out free inspirational texts throughout the week.
Okay,
If you want to receive those totally free, I'll drop the number here. All you have to do is text it, and it'll give you a link, and you'll just sign up. It takes 2 seconds, and you'll get inspirational texts throughout the week. And then also, I wanted to announce the winner of the best takeaway. I just saw it. Give me 1 second. Where did it go? Terry Eggert. Terry Eggert. Thoughts or random thinking is not. We can replace negative thoughts with positive thinking. It's our choice.
Thank you
So-
very much. As you
Good.
were scrolling through them, I just kept saying, why not me? Why not me? Why not me?
I love it. So
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, Terry, you can either text that number, your address, or if you want to coordinate with Peggy or Matt and just let them know.
yeah, a few people on this call have my email address. So
Yeah.
if you
And,
send me a note, if you don't know Craig's, I thought I had it in the meeting announcement, but if I didn't, send it to me and I'll forward it on to Craig.
Yeah. And
Okay, thank you very much.
I don't know if you guys are on social media, but if you are, you can come say hello and I'll follow you guys back. And we'll do a lot of inspirational stuff there too. I'll put the handle here. And if you guys listen to podcasts or you like them, the CLS Experience podcast is really cool. And then obviously we have the book and so forth, but I'm going to send
If there's something Craig, if there's something you want me to forward on to everybody, just send me a link and I'll send it out to everybody who was registered for the meeting.
Cool. I love it.
Okay. So
Yeah.
thank you again for being on Chat with Matt. We didn't have any technology issues, which is always a nice thing. And we had just a fabulous, fabulous guest speaker today. It might even fool people into signing up for my next Chat with Matt. You just never know. So Craig, God bless you. Much success. Now that I know where your website is, I will be visiting it frequently. So for inspiration, if nothing else.
Yeah.
So,
Thank
you've
you.
enriched my life, Craig. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
guys.
you.
so
Nice
much for having
meeting
me.
you.
And thank you
Yes.
for everybody joining us. Almost everybody stayed on the call. Pretty amazing, Craig. You should be very proud. Usually people start dropping off. So you must have entertained them.
We must have done a good job. Love it so much. I love being here, guys. I'll put my number again here if you want to text me, and have a great rest of the night. And remember, why not you?
Okay.
Put your
Take care,
text-
everybody. And sign up for Chat with Matt for the next episode. Take care, Craig.
Bye, guys.